That's all. Push, 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 push.
Like velvet, yeah, like velvet.
Yes, chef.
Pas bien. Change-le.
Yes, chef.
Maintenant, hein.
Chef, put it on the floor. Show me, show me, show me.
No, odds at the same time. Odds at the same time.
You say?
We got it. Yeah? Okay, good. Everyone, great.
Yes, sure, right? Double of everything, two of everything. Yes,
Come on, guys, think of it up. Come on, this is the dish. You are looking at that all the time, yeah? You have eyes on it the whole time, so you have to pass.
Yes, chef.
Yeah? Look at me. Yeah?
Yes,
You
chef.
up for it?
Yes, chef.
All right, let's go. Yes, chef.
Come on, Michelin.
All right, I'm Chef AndrePoirot. I was born, raised, and trained in France. I come from a small town in the Vosges mountain in France, the northeastern part of France, and I'm pretty close from the Swiss and German border, about 50 miles away. Actually, that's where I fly. I fly to an airport, it's in French soil, but actually run the 3 countries, and when you get out you have to decide where you're going, to France, Germany, part of the EU, or to Switzerland. And you have to be careful. If you go to Switzerland, then you're going to have to make another 100 miles in the car to get back to France. So it's going around. I was trained first as an apprenticeship. I took an apprenticeship, and then I decided after the apprenticeship that I needed more if I wanted to become a chef, and I decided to go to a culinary school, a 2-year program. It was brand new at the time. It used to be a 3-year program, and they're just introducing the 2 years, so it was kind of compressed 3 years of education in 2 years of education. It was pretty harsh, especially when you look at the standard those days. You know, they didn't hesitate to drop the student if you didn't perform. So from about 100 students we had when we started that program, we ended up with 50 students. So half of the students were weed out during the 2-year program. I think that changed right now, you know, it don't do as much, but that was kind of, say, a pilot program at the time. I think that was a combination of both. Some people realized they weren't cut for the job or for the industry. And there was not only kitchen, there was the front of the house, there was kitchen, and that was also for the hospitality industry, so learning how to manage a hotel. But some of the, you know, if your grades were going below a certain standard, they will just give you one more chance, you know, and then bye-bye. The other thing is we had to do internship during the vacation, so really no time off. If you think you were having a fall break, then during that fall break you have to do at least half of the time you have to work in a kitchen, in a restaurant to learn. So during the summer months there was an internship, a 2-month internship. So I have to say that some of the teacher and you know, will decide where you will go for internship, and then you where the good ones were and where the bad ones were. So if you weren't performing, you had a good chance to go to not the best internship. Therefore, when you come back, most of the people will drop and then not come back. So if you were dropping from your internship, you automatically drop from the school. I was busing to school. I wasn't staying on campus. I live about 25 miles from the school, so in another small town. And by the way, that school had a really good reputation. When I applied for the school, because I did the apprenticeship, so I was after I finished high school and I did my apprenticeship, so I have to apply to get in. There was about 400 applicants for 100 spots. So you have to go in front of the faculty and do the interview and then wait to get the result. So there was already a lot of selection taking place at that time. So when you arrive over there, and you know, most of the people were driven. People were going in there, they were driven. So I arrived, like say, wake up at 6 o'clock, take my bus at 7, arrive at the school around 7:30, quarter, depending of the weather. Don't forget I live in the mountain. We had snow in the winter. And we had days where, practice days, so that's mean that we in kitchen, we spend the day in the kitchen, and then schooling day, class day. So when we were on class day, we always have to wear a tie, and we have to get a shirt, a tie, and then we had like a lab coat. Everybody wear the same thing, make sure, and if you didn't wear a tie, you wouldn't be accepted in the classroom. That was simple as that. So we had the whole curriculum, like, mathematics and of course French, then a foreign language, and then the other thing like accounting and management and all this. And so for me, those days were the best interesting. We have to take how to learn how to type. It wasn't the best thing for a bunch of people who work in the kitchen, because for some reason they put the typing class just after working in the kitchen for 6 hours. So, and there is an incident when one of the students took the typing machine and threw it away. It didn't stay long after that, but otherwise, when we were working in the kitchen, so we had two different classes. One was like you do here too, same thing where you have a station. We were sharing a station, and then we have a menu. So we will be giving the menu by the chef de cuisine, the teacher, and then we have to do ordering from there, and we have to learn the recipes, know what to order. We couldn't use the book. We have to memorize everything. Therefore, I still have that book. I was lucky, actually, I could bring it to you. I found the translation of the book, and I found it here, so I bought it. There's 120 recipes to cover every kind of technique that you're going to use in the kitchen. So you have to order that, and then you will give that to, we had like a student helper, then you give that to the student helper. The helper will go to the storeroom and bring back what you order. So everything will be bring back to you. Then you have to produce 3 dishes during the 6 hours. Those dishes actually didn't go to waste, because we will do usually about 8 for 8 people, 8 portions of each. And I told you that the school had a front of the house, so you learn how to be a server. So you will cook, and actually the student, as a perk, we had a student restaurant. So instead of the cafeteria, some of the students we have ticket, and then you could go and sit in a restaurant, and you will be served what the students were cooking by the student who are learning how to serve. So you produce that, and of course the teacher will evaluate everything before sending it, and then we'll have feedback from the student too, who will be part of the grade. So think about, the feedback from the client, from the guest, and then feedback, of course, from the teacher. So the other part of the kitchen too was working actually in another restaurant. So that restaurant was open to the public for lunch, and then we'll work as a full kitchen. That means as a brigade. So every week a different student will be told, this is you're the chef, and then you will have your sous chef, your chef de partie, your cooks, and as a chef you have to make the menu and then discuss it with your sous chef. You have to do all the ordering and also working like if you were in a regular kitchen, and then we will serve actual guests. So there will be actually if I go back to France, they still have the restaurant I like to go, as a light, and it's really cheap. I mean, you get a 3 or 4 course menu for something like $10. So they just, well, I think, like I said, I was lucky enough to realize that just going to an apprenticeship, and there's nothing wrong going to an apprenticeship, but you learn from one chef. You work in the kitchen, so you really learn the speed, you learn how to walk around people, what to do with the real world. But what you don't learn, it's all the other side of becoming a chef. That means the management of the kitchen, the management of the people. So I don't think I would have been able to go that fast. I mean, I became an executive chef in a 4-star hotel at 30 years old. I don't think I would have been able to do that, if I didn't go to culinary school, because the culinary school gave me really the foundation to become a manager, and have all the basics of becoming a chef, because it's the same thing. If you work only under one chef, then you're going to know what the chef knows, and the apprenticeship at the time was 2 to 3 years. So it's the same thing. You're going to learn everything about what the chef has to show you, but there's a lot of things who are left out, and you should know. If you work in any kitchen, if you come and work for me, I'm going to show you, what I'm doing, but there's a lot of things that we're not going to touch. So when you go to culinary school, you actually touch on everything. Does that make you a chef right away? No, you're not. The idea you become a chef because you're going to take that knowledge and apply it to the real world, and you're going to learn how to use it. And sometimes when people talk to you about something, you might not have it. You might, I say, oh yeah, I remember I did it in school maybe once or twice. But at least you know that. So it's really easy to go back, do a little bit of research, and say, oh yeah, I remember that. That's how we did that. And if I didn't have that, if I didn't go to culinary school at the time, that's something I would have missed. Something, I could learn, because you can go and especially right now, Google is right one step away, like from your phone, and even though I use that to refresh my memory, sometimes I say, oh, I know this is it, but I want to make sure this is right, so I go back and look at it and say, okay, maybe I missed one ingredient or something, and especially here, in the United States, we are so lucky. This is the best place to be a chef anywhere else in the world, because it is a melting pot. You cannot go anywhere else in the world and see, and being French, I know, because I go back to France and I see it, we are exposed to so many different cultures and different ways, and culture means cooking. You go anywhere in the world. I traveled a lot extensively too, and I found out like one thing who bring people together is food. And if you go, you don't speak the language, but everybody speaks the language of food. And if you show any interest in their culture and their food, people are going to open it to you. And there's nothing better than you see people smiling when you taste the food, or you give somebody some food and they taste it. And, all of a sudden, you don't need language. You're going to have that, in your face and say, wow, this is good. Wow, what's in there? And then you show interest. That's how I learned a lot of things, going to different countries and being able not only to share what I'm doing, most of the time I've been lucky enough to go in country. I went to Taiwan to do a festival when I was working in New Orleans. So I did a festival, Cajun Creole Festival, in a hotel, and I show people, of course, the Creole cuisine, the Cajun cuisine. But then on the other side, I got so much from learning about Chinese cuisine, where what we see here in the States is nothing compared to what you have over there. And I've been in a restaurant, I was working with a pastry chef and showing him the recipe I wanted him to do. And he said, he speak a little bit English, said, let's go for lunch. And we got out of the hotel and we go to those little streets, really dark, end up in that place. There was almost no light. And he said, what do you want to eat? And I said, I don't know, order. So he ordered the food, and I know he was looking at me, he said, well, go there. And I got that bowl of soup in there, really tasty. And I thought there was noodle in it. So I'm looking at it and I'm tasting it. It's really flavorful, kind of seafood. And when I realized, I started he was looking and kind of smiling, and I started to look a bit closer to those dumplings. They weren't dumplings, they were lava. And I could see the two little eyes on it. And I keep going because it was good, so I was impressed, but you have to get this sense and kind of get away behind what you think and what we have. When I say that, people go, ooh. But go behind that, yuckness and go, and you're going to find a lot of stuff. So you have to be, as a chef, you have to be really open to anything. And, it's important as being and learning to taste everything. And the only way you're going to know how to do a dish if you taste it over and over, and you're going to memorize the taste. There's one thing my wife always tells me, I don't know how you do it, but you go somewhere in a restaurant, you like the dish, and then a couple of weeks later you reproduce it in the kitchen without knowing what's in there. And this is because of the memory, your taste memory, you develop, and it's not given, that's something you develop. I came from a small town, that's 5,000 people living there. French, all the restaurants were French, but I didn't get to taste smoked salmon till I was 14 years old. And I was lucky enough because I was helping in the kitchen, and that was during the holiday, that was something they would serve in the holidays. So first, my family, my mother couldn't afford salmon at the time. It's from the mountains, so the fish we had were like more trout, carps, pike. But for me that was a different experience. I tasted caviar. I said, oh my God, what the hell, and I have to go behind that. As a 14, 15 years old kid, you say, oh, you look at caviar and say, I don't think I want to taste that. But, the chef at the time said, no, I want you to taste everything. And I was lucky, introduced with that chef to, he will do something, a sauce and all, and he will always call me and make me taste it, and that's one of the reasons I owed to him to start it in a business and wanted to become a chef, because, I say, man, there's so much possibilities, and, every day you will taste something new, and that's really what I really like about the job, is just you can create something new every single day. And like I said again, going back to the melting pot, all the spices, all the different technique, Once again, I go back to China. I realized when I went to China that it wasn't that much different when it comes to basic between French cooking and Chinese cooking, because the base are the same. You have to get good ingredients. You have to get the same base. The stocks are really important in Chinese cuisine, or they are in French cuisine. It's just a different way of treating the product after that. So it's, I would say again, get your eyes open, be ready, listen, ask questions. I think one of the main thing is being in the kitchen with somebody who has knowledge like myself, We're not going to think all the time about telling you that, but I can tell you I'm going to show more interest if somebody can come and ask me questions, because I'm going to know you're interested in there. Therefore, I'm going to make the effort when I do something, to call you, like the chef I told you was telling me before. So ask questions. Why are you doing it that way? I've been in the kitchen for 36 years. I forgot why I'm doing it that way, because I've been doing it that way and I know it works, so that's the reason. The other thing is, I'm always open to your suggestion. I got new people coming and say, well, I think it works better like that. But the first thing I'm going to tell them, say, before you want to do it a different way, you're in my kitchen, do it my way. Once you learn how to do my way and you do it correctly the way I want it done, then you can show me your way. If your way is better, trust me, we're going to change. But in the meantime, use it. This is my kitchen. Do it my way, and then we'll look at it. So I did the apprenticeship. I did, as I say, was in a small restaurant in my hometown, and classic French bistro cuisine. They actually had a pound with trout in there. So one of the gimmick was people could go and catch their fish and they bring it to us and we cook it and serve it in a restaurant. It was a pretty good gimmick, but doesn't work very well. By the way, if you work with a live trout, it's okay if you do a truiteau bleu, it's like poach in a court bouillon, but when you try to saute a trout who's been just killed, it's going to jump out of the pan. You have to leave it usually 24 hours to get the rigor mortis. So that small restaurant with a very young chef, so 2 years I did my apprenticeship, then I went 2 years in culinary school. When I finished my culinary school, so I graduated and went to work in another small restaurant that was just opening. There was actually a pastry shop who was extending to a restaurant, so they were opening a restaurant in part of the pastry shop. So that was good experience for me because I was exposed to the pastry part of the culinary field. Like I wasn't specializing in pastry, but I learned a lot just walking in there, and then I learned how to open a restaurant. So I worked with a really small kitchen. There was only the chef, myself, and a dishwasher who can do prep cook. Dishwasher were doing the prepping and all this. And I stayed there for about a year and a half. And when I was there, one of my best friends, we went to culinary school together, and when he left school, he actually had the opportunity to go to London and work at the Savoy Hotel. And being best friends, we were keeping in touch with each other, and he said, the chef here is looking for, he wants some French guy in the kitchen, he wants some fresh cook in the kitchen, you should come. So after he poked me for a while, I said, okay, I'm going. I have to say at the time I didn't speak a word of English. Coming from a town near the German border, we didn't have a choice which language we were going to learn when we were in high school at the time. If you were near the German border, then you will learn German. If you were near the Italian, you will learn Italian, and so and so. So I knew German, learned German, didn't speak a word of English. So I took the train, no plane at the time, and take my journey, and I told my friend I'm going to arrive at that time and go there, and arrive in London main train station, and my friend wasn't there, and I'm lost, and I just had his address on a piece of paper, and I go from taxi to taxi, and nobody could tell me no. They're just telling me no. I'm there, say, where is he? Where did he leave? And finally talked with. They showed me there was another line of taxi they had section in London where they only go to a certain mileage before. So I found my friend, and I started at the Savoy Hotel. So that was an experience, because the Savoy Hotel at that time, the kitchen was laid out the way Escoffier had laid it out. So we're talking 1977 when I went there. Escoffier opened the Savoy Hotel in 1900, probably. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, it was the first hotel to have electricity, so that gives you an idea. And so walking in a kitchen where I had the chance to work in the full brigade system. So I worked in the fish station, so hot fish station. So I had a chef de partie, then I had the first cook, and then I was a second cook, and then we had an apprentice with us.
The poissonnier.
Poissonnier. Mm-hmm. And so I was lucky. I actually worked with a coal stove. So we had that big stove with the ring, and they were like that thick. Every day we'll come and put coal, and we had a fire starter, so we put it in there, and it will really get hot. You're talking like, it was so hot that they'll give us a 15-minute break so we could go in and change jacket, because we will be soaked by the time. So we had a 15-minute break, go change jacket, come back and finish the service. But I learned a lot because I was all Escoffier. If you know le répertoire de la cuisine, that was our Bible in that kitchen. So we used the répertoire because the chef was an Italian chef named Trompetto, and he will change the menu every single day. The menu will change, so we've got the menu coming, and mainly we always had, like I say, like a trout. It will be sauté but different garnishes. So that's why the repertoire will come. You know, we had trout doya. What is it? You open repertoire, you see doya, cucumber garnish. You know, sautéed cucumber, turned sautéed cucumber. So this is something that was really, really good. Now, by the way, it didn't pay anything. You know, at the time I barely made it. By the time I pay for my room, for the transportation, take the tube to work, I might have maybe £5 left every week. So £5 is not much. Think about $10 a week to go by and do whatever you do, like even go have a beer or something like that. So, I look at it as building my resume. You know, I said the first one was good because I learned about pastry and I could put that on my resume. You know, I had to leave. The reason I left the Savoy Hotel is because first it was time for me, but I had to go and do my army in France. We had a conscription, so we had to do a year working doing the army in France. But you know, the chef at the time wasn't happy. He said, "You cannot leave, you can't stay here." I said, "Yeah, but if I stay here, I don't do my army, I cannot go back to France." So after like I did 1 year in the army, and of course I ended up in the kitchen pretty quickly. I did my training, and then I was in a commando training center, and I arrived where they had, the way the kitchen was working is the senior guy in the kitchen will be the chef basically, but when we arrived I wasn't happy with what they were doing. They really were missing the food, didn't care what they were doing, and I kind of took over, and after 2 months they actually promoted me to petty officer, and because I had the rank, then I drank everybody, so I became the chef de cuisine. So I stayed there. That was about 8 months in that kitchen, running the mess officer and the regular kitchen cafeteria for the people. So after 1 year, actually, once again they wanted me to stay even as a civilian, just to run the kitchen. I said no. I was pretty young, so I still want to go, and I say I'm going back to London because I really like London. So went back to London and worked in a small restaurant. There was a club and there was a French restaurant. English people love their club for some reason. They look at exclusivity. I mean, they just you know, they were ready. The club I was working. So think about a French restaurant. And people were paying actually to be able to come and eat, and then we were charging pretty good money for it too. So I was laughing at it. I'm thinking that they're only in England, you know. Once again, after a year there, my best friend actually was in England too, was still in London. I'd taken a job. They were opening a new restaurant in the Covent Garden district. It was being changed from being the hall where you know, the big market, whole food market for the city had been moved outside of the city. Covent Garden was really in the center of London, near the opera. So it was becoming actually kind of the river market is, you know, when a lot of restaurants in chain become cultural area. The opera was there, and also they opened a restaurant, and he asked me to come and work for them. So I went and worked in that restaurant called Thomas de Quincy's at the time, and we bring it up to the ground, and I worked with an English chef who was really talented. And we brought that restaurant from nothing to, after a year, we got to 1 star against Ronne, and against Ronne is a bit like the Michelin of England. So that was, you know, very good. After almost 2 years there, I got kind of homesick, and you know, I didn't see my family and all, so I decided to go back to France. So I went back to France and took a job in a small hotel not far from where I live, and run the kitchen in that small hotel for about a year or so. And after a year in France, I said, no, I need to go somewhere else. I had the bug of traveling. And there's one thing I have to say, I was lucky is I love traveling. I love travel and I love cooking. And with my job as a chef, I was able to do both because, I was able to travel the job. So actually, I went back to school. When I was visiting the school, I talked with the dean, and the dean just told me, he said, oh, I have a friend who works in Bermuda, he's a chef in a hotel in Bermuda, and he's looking for people. So he gave me his coordinate, and I contacted the chef there, and that's how I found a job in Bermuda. So a couple of months later, when I got all the paper, I flew to Bermuda, and I worked at the Princess Hotel in Bermuda for over 6 years. So I started as a hotel. We had 3 restaurants plus the banquet department. So I was hired as a sous chef in the gourmet restaurant. It was a French restaurant called the Terre Room. By the time I arrived with the paper, when I arrived, the chef had left, and I was automatically promoted to chef de cuisine of the restaurant without knowing. That was kind of a joke, because when I arrived, they said, oh, you're the new chef. I said, no, I'm just the sous chef. No, you're the new chef. No, I'm just the sous chef. Till I finally meet with the chef. Say, oh yeah, the guy left. You're the guy in charge. So I was thrown as really, at that position without any knowledge of what was going on and all. So I stayed in that position for 2 years. After 2 years, they decided to change the concept, and they turned that to more like an American restaurant. And the chef asked me, the chef garde-manger at the time was leaving, and the chef asked me if I could take the garde-manger lead role. I say sure. So I took the garde-manger role for about a year, and that's why I learned. We had a kitchen artist at the time. This guy role was just to do ice carving and butter sculpture and any kind of garnishes you will put. What you learn in garde-manger, doing the roses and all. So I learned from this guy too. That was really good. And by the way, after a year there, the hotel, the company was actually open a new restaurant by the pool. Was same kind of American fare. And they had brought a chef from California, and that chef never worked in the island, didn't know anything, and didn't want any advice from us. So we were in the kitchen, didn't want to take any advice from the other chef. I know what I'm doing. Well, after 6 months, his food cost was so high, and they had a lot of complaint and all, that they let him go. So the chef called me. I always remember, we were living all in the same area. Called me for a beer, and he said, tomorrow you're going in that kitchen and you're taking over. And I said, what's in it for me? He said, well, you got to raise, you got to raise right now, and then if you bring that restaurant in line between 6 months, we'll give you another raise. And I said, what if I do it earlier? Then you get your raise earlier. So I took that restaurant, and actually bought it. It took me 3 months to straighten everything out, to tweak the menu, and take care. And we were doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So stayed there another, I think it was 2-3 years, I know. But after 6 years there, I want to see somewhere else. And I used to come to the state pretty often. Bermuda is like 2 hours away, fly, and I had friends in New York, I had friends in Baltimore, so that was really easy. Give you an idea, when I arrived in Bermuda, I didn't go back to France and left the island until after 18 months to go back to France in my family. The last year when I was in Bermuda, every 6 weeks I would take a fly and go for the weekend to New York or Baltimore to see friends. So it was time for me, and I always wanted to work in the United States. So there was a Sonesta hotel in Bermuda. Once again, tell you, you need to know people, all this. I was talking with somebody who worked at the Sonesta, the chef who worked at the Sonesta, and he said, oh, they're looking for somebody in New Orleans. So they put me in contact, and I took a job, actually came in the United States to New Orleans at the Royal Sonesta Hotel on Bourbon Street, and I was hired as the chef de cuisine for their main restaurant, their gourmet restaurant. Actually came here with a J1 visa, with a student visa. And, you know, lucky again, connection. I had a good friend of mine who worked for the American consulate in Bermuda, and just guided me to it, because they asked me, they say, you're a student and they're paying you that much, because I was doing a pretty decent salary at that time. And he said, yeah, but you know, I'm gonna go there to learn Cajun and Creole cuisine. So, you know, I know everything about French cuisine. I don't know much about Cajun and Creole cuisine. So I arrived in New Orleans and took that restaurant in New Orleans. The critic in a Times-Picayune paper doesn't give star, he actually give beans. So it's from 2 to 5 beans. And when I had my first review, I'd just been there like 2 months. The review was like a 2 beans, so that was kind of really bad, you know, and they wanted to work on it. And a year and a half after, I got a second review, and the critic came, and actually that was like all blind review. The critic at the time, you didn't know who he was always keeping anonymity. And he actually called me and told me that he had been in my restaurant, and he was ready to review, and it was the day before it was published, and he said, I'm really impressed with what you have done with that restaurant, and I hope you're going to be happy tomorrow. And I got a 4 bean at the time. So at the same time, I met my wife, who was working at the hotel and starting dating. And
She working food?
Mm-hmm. She was assistant manager of the second restaurant, Oyster Bar at the hotel. And so we started dating. We were both working at night and starting dating. And after a year, you know, my visa was good for a year, actually 18 months. I had it extended to 18 months. And I said, well, you know, it's time for me to look somewhere else. I cannot stay. And my wife asked me, what is it going to take for you to stay? I said, well, you know, you get the lottery, but it's like everything is a lottery, there's no much chance to do it. The other thing is to get married. And at that time, she looked at me and said, well. So actually, that's the story I like. That's the story I like to say. I get on my knees and say, "Will you marry me?" So yes, not very romantic for a French guy, is it? So I got married and be able to stay. And at the time, the executive sous chef decided to leave, and I was offered a position. So I took the position of executive sous chef. And what was good is I have to switch from night to days, working at daytime, or as much you can say for chef, you know, the 10, 12 hour day. I mean, it's just, and my wife was promoted to restaurant manager, so we actually switched shifts almost together, so that was good for us. And then after 6 months at the position, the chef decided to leave, and that's why I was giving the position of executive chef. So I stayed with the Sonesta over 10 years. I mean, actually not 15 years. So yeah, that was over 10 years as an executive chef. And I was lucky to have a general manager who became my mentor. And I learned a lot with him, you know, and when you're young and responsibility of being executive chef in a 4-star restaurant, 4-star hotel, it can be really overwhelming. And actually, taking a position like that's overwhelming, and you know, nothing but experience can help you. And really, I remember the first year I was there, I didn't trust anybody, and that's the hardest you can do when you're a chef. Is you have hard time to let go. You always believe something bad gonna happen if you're not there, and something bad gonna happen if you're not there, or if you're there, it doesn't matter. And that's where you have to go. And he helped me through that, and you know, helped me with managing people, with managing the cost and everything. He was himself used to be a chef, so it was really helpful. He knew exactly what I was going through, so he guided me very well through this. So I learned a lot, and like I say, the other thing is to learn how to delegate and trust the people to do the job. And are they gonna mess? Yes, it's gonna happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when it's gonna happen. But hopefully they learn the lesson, like, do I still mess up? Yes, I still. But you learn your lesson. So if you learn the lesson and you don't do it again, I always tell people, once I'm gonna forgive, twice I'm gonna start to tell you, 3 times, get out of here. That means you're not gonna learn and you haven't learned. So I really, grew up in my position over those years, and after almost 15 years, went through a hurricane in New Orleans, and I was like the second one. I stayed at the hotel. We had 700 people in the hotel, and I have, of course, a minimum crew in the kitchen. We were in lockdown for full 3 days, so we have to feed 700 people, breakfast, lunch, dinner, during all that time. And that was really stressful, but talking with people, and I had a friend who was very versed with the city and the Corps of Engineer, and he told me we got lucky, but if this hurricane had come just a little bit, like something like 25 miles more to the west, the city would have been completely closed and flooded. If you look at Katrina, that's what happened. So I decided it was time for me to move. There was changing in the company too that I didn't like. My GM was ready to retire, so it was time to move. And once again, talking with somebody, a friend of mine, another French chef, Roger Gutierrez from the Peabody in Memphis, was running the Chez Philippe restaurant in Memphis, told me about the position in Little Rock, that there was a position open at the Peabody in Little Rock. I didn't know there was a Peabody in Little Rock, so I came here and interviewed. I was offered a job, and that was just before the opening of the library, the Clinton Library. So we were the headquarters, so I helped open the Clinton Library and took that job till the Peabody Hotel was sold about 7 years ago. When the Peabody was sold, I wanted to stay. I was really looking to stay in Little Rock or in Arkansas, because this city and this state has been really good to me. And my wife, at first, when I took the job in Little Rock and I told her I'm taking a job in Little Rock, Arkansas, she looked at me and said, from all the places you could go. And I said, well, yeah, but you're going to like it. And actually, she really loved it. So when that time, say, I hope you can find something here. So there was, the kids are in school. I was offered a job at the Crown Plaza Hotel with the Allen family. And once again, take the Crown Plaza to the next level when it comes to the food and beverage. I was kind of more like a chef NB, I like to call that, I was the executive chef, but kind of in charge of the whole food and beverage. And lucky for me, the Allen decided to sell the Crown Plaza a couple of years ago. So from there, once again, without a job, I started looking. I was ready actually to take a job in Nashville, been exploding the last couple of years. Nashville was becoming a hot spot, and it still is. I mean, it's still developing, but at the time, there was something. I had 2 offers just over Nashville, with some hotels. So I was able to stay here, and then was approached with a friend of mine at the Capitol Hotel, and they were looking for a banquet chef. And I said, do you mind taking? I said, no, I want to stay here, and I always liked the Capitol Hotel. Plus I knew, there was a bunch of French chefs, many French chefs you could have in a kitchen. We had Joël Antunes, Marc Guizol, and then myself and the food and beverage director, Alain Pirot, French. So I had the full control of the banquets with the menus and everything, so it worked out pretty well. I didn't stay long because I was approached by Mark Silic, who worked at the 42 Bar and Table with the Clinton Foundation, and he approached me. He said, my chef is leaving, I want you to come and work for me. And at first I told him, no, I'm happy at the Capital, I like what it is, and for me it was good, I'm being 60, in my 60s, I say, well, I can head on, take it easy, I don't have to get all that headache of being the executive chef. But I went and talked back with Mike, and I really like what he has to say and what is his view and what he wanted to do with the restaurant. So I decided to take the position at the Clinton Foundation, and that's where I am right now. As you can see, I got my nice little seal here. What I like about it is when you work in companies, you always have to deal with a lot of people. Working with the foundation, basically answer to Mike, we talk to each other, we actually had good communication, and then basically the foundation is like dealing with owner, There's some stuff on the menu, you're gonna look and you ask me why you have that on the menu. There's a reason, it's because one of these people like that, so I'm not gonna take it off. But that's the way, you have to compromise with everything. But I think we have a really good operation. The library is the only presidential library who actually have their own staff running the food and beverage operation. All the other libraries are run by some entities like Aramark or Sodexo or something. So we do whatever we want for the people, the owner, the moment they're happy, and that's all. So we were lucky enough this year, when the pandemic started in March, we had to close the restaurant. We closed on the 14th of March, and we started right away, starting the feeding program with World Central Kitchen and the City of Little Rock, the LRSD and Pulaski Country School District, and the food bank. Then we produce a meal till the end of August, till the kids went back to school, and we produce over 683,000 meals. World Central Kitchen was providing the food, so paying for all the food, and then the Clinton Foundation actually paid our salary during that time, so all my staff were kept on the payroll. It was pretty important when you see what happened. You had a lot of people get laid off or furloughed, and still continuing, so we're lucky with that. But that was, for everybody, it was a different experience, working in a small kitchen and producing something like 5,000 dinner a day, and once again, my experience working for a larger kitchen, like, the State House at the Peabody, we're feeding in the State House where we're doing 1,000 gourmet gala dinner and stuff like that. So that helped me with all the logistics, and some of my staff, changed their job completely. My Jason Morel, my chef de cuisine, actually took over the logistic of transferring stuff from trucks to trucks. So we will drive the trucks, and we rented a reefer, and that's refrigerated truck, by the way. And Benny Keys helped us with one too, so because I didn't have enough cooling space for that, so it will move things on back and forth and everything. So even being a chef, it doesn't matter. You just take over, and then I have to deal with all the other logistics with dealing. When you deal with entities like government, it's always a challenge. So I tried to be the buffer and the buffer zone between that and actually what was going on. And I think that's why we were successful. I tell you the truth, when I started the first week, and I think, man, if we're able to do maybe 1,000 meals at night, we'll be lucky. At the end, we were doing 5,000, and they show you that nothing is impossible always. And you have to look at the big picture, and sometimes, you have to give something. Obviously, I couldn't cook everything or what I wanted to do, but you know what? The purpose wasn't to do a gourmet meal. The purpose was to feed people who couldn't afford it, to make sure that kids and people who don't get hungry. So that the final thing was that. So I think it turned out good. I think that was a great experience for me and for all my staff. I think the main thing is to be open-minded, and you have to be a sponge. That means when I say a sponge, say listen to everything you say. Food Network, it's good because I got idea from there. I'm watching the Food Network, and I'm watching everywhere I go. I've got idea. Reading magazine, I've got idea. No, I take those ideas and make them mine. I'm going to change something in there, or I'm going to try something else. But you have to be really open-minded. I say it again, don't be afraid to ask questions. You have knowledge around you. Even your peer, you're going to learn something. I learn something from my guys every day. So open-minded. When I interview somebody, the most important thing I'm going to look at is the attitude. If you come with a really great attitude, and I'm going to see it when I interview you. I might ask you a question because you had a stretch of questions. Now, in old days, they gave you a list of questions you have to ask and all. And, but I'm going to look at your attitude, your enthusiasm. I'm going to see and how well you want to be in this business. Are you excited when you talk about a dish? I'm going to usually ask you, say, when was the last thing you cooked at home? What did you eat last night? And from there I can see if you're excited or not, I don't care if you did a grilled cheese, tell you the truth. But I can feel if you're excited, because when you did that grilled cheese, you say, instead of putting American, I went in there and I find this and I put this and this. And then I know, say, well, it's thinking outside of the box. You want something. So, definitely the attitude, experience is always good depending on position you're going to fill. But most of the time I like to promote from inside. So most of the position I hire are kind of, opening introductory position. So you show me you got the attitude. I know you got the basic. If you are in a school, then I'm going to tell you, okay, I'm going to hire you, I'm going to give you a chance. And there's a lot of people who saw they say, one of the most rewarding to be a chef, to be a manager, is when you go years later and you get in touch with somebody actually that you hire at that position who's known, a chef, a very well-known chef in there. Not too long ago I got in touch with one of the guys I hired when I was in New Orleans, and it was on Facebook, and I see on Facebook he put a dish on Facebook. He said, hey, this is my special today. Well, guess what? That's a special I developed when I was in New Orleans. So I got in touch with him and I say, and how do you call this? And he laughed and he says, sorry, chef, I guess I should put your name on it. But when you see people like that, who started at the bottom, and in I would say 8-10 years, rise up and all this stuff, say, be open-minded, get the right attitude, come to work. I mean, everybody has problem. Yeah, I got my problem, but when I come to work, I try to get that out. It's like in the kitchen. You're gonna argue with the waiter because of this. This is normal. This is a normal kitchen. It's gonna happen all the time. But I can argue with the maître d' in the kitchen, and then I go in the front and talk to guests. As soon as I get that threshold in the dining room, I got a smile on, and it's me, it's Chef Andre. How are you? But, you know, and I can go, it might be hell in the kitchen. I don't want the guests to know about it. So if you get the same attitude when you go there saying, shit gonna happen, deal with it, you know, but your attitude has to be right there. And, you know, I'm gonna talk to you if something is not going up. I understand you got issue and I'm gonna try to help you. But, you know, if you show me that you're willing to learn, that you got the right attitude every day, you're gonna get somewhere. You're gonna learn from me.
Thank you, Chef.
So, I mean, I think, you know, work ethics, I think I'm an older generation. I hate when I say, you know, I'm becoming my father or my stepfather, you know, because all those young in these days. But, you know, you're going to be at one time or the other. You're going to say the same stuff. I look at it, I was saying that when I was young, say, oh, look at those older guys, they don't want to change, you know. I had to fight to do some changes, you know, talking about New Orleans. My GM, you know, was work in the kitchen, was a chef at one time, so it was really hard to do changes, but changes were happening, you know, so I fought for him, you know, and I always told my GM, you know, I said, I respect you a lot, you know, and that's one thing too, you know, respect is a two-way street. For me to respect you, you have to show me respect. And that worked, you know, in everybody, with everybody. And I said, you know, you're my boss, you know, I respect you, my boss. I might disagree with you, I might do, you know, I will do what you tell me to do because you're my boss, but it doesn't mean I have to agree with you. And, you know, if you show the respect, this will come a long way, because after that you might, you know, I see it, you know, after a couple of times, he came with me and say, you know, yes, you're right, it's time for us to change. You were right. So, I mean, he recognized that he was just holding too long, and, you know, and then we make the changes we needed to make. And actually, you know, he thanked me for it. So that's something, you know, you have to consider too, you know. It's not because it's a certain way, and I said that earlier, that we've been doing it all the time. You know, that's one thing you're going to find everywhere. It's not only in the kitchen, say, why are you doing it that way? Well, we always been doing it that way. You know, that's the worst thing can happen. We're doing that way, oh, we're always doing that way. Oh, let's look at something else. You know, you have, like I say, once again, open-minded. Try stuff, experiment, you know. And then the taste, you know, I talk again, we're talking about, we're being lucky to be in the United States where we're really a melting pot. You got fusion. Okay, fusion, we take a bit of this and take a bit of this culture and this culture, put it together. Not everything work. Actually, I would tell you, 90% of the stuff don't work. So you have to be aware of, you know, the ingredients you use it, respect the ingredients you're using, and then taste. I mean, yes, you have to get the right stuff. It's not, you know, what's in your head, what's on paper might sounds good till, you know, you taste it. And I see it a lot of time when I do judging. You know, I judge for from the Pro Start program, so with, you know, kids, I mean, high school kids, to competition like, you know, the Diamond Chef, and even professional chef still make the mistake too. You know, they think that something is going to work, and, you know, it's not working. Or sometimes we're in a rush, we think go there and we didn't take the time to taste. So you have to taste everything, and that's not only to hone your taste skill, but, you know, it's, once again, it's your taste memory. You know, you want to learn about wine because it's part of the industry too, then it's the same thing. You know, if you don't taste it before, you don't know how it's going to taste. So if I'm doing something, you know, and I'm doing a sauce and I'm showing that, and I had that not too long ago with one of my guys. I show him how to do a hollandaise, and I show him to do hollandaise. So next week I say, okay, I want you to do the hollandaise, and I'm an old guy, I do it the classic way. And what, yeah, so he started to do it, and I turned my back. Next thing I see a blender on the counter, and I see the Hollandaise in it. And I say, nope. And he said, what you doing? Well, I'm going to finish it in the blender. I said, no, that's not what I told you, and that's not what I teach you. I said, before you can go to shortcuts, you need to learn the right way. Once you have, master the right way, then you can try to do shortcut. There's one thing too, talking about shortcut. I can do a shortcut because I know the end result. So I know what I want to achieve. So I hate when I do it. I don't like to do shortcut in front of my staff because, the chances are they're going to try to do it and the result is not going to be the same. It's going to be messed up. So, there's a reason we do it the right way. The shortcut is where you're in the bind and you have to do it. One of other thing I like to tell my staff is always be ready for plan B, because it's going to happen at one time or the other. So you always have to get a plan B. But I told my guys, say, you need to finish your Hollandaise, put it back in there, and I'm watching you this time. And he finished it. Now this week I asked him to do it, and no problem. And he came up with the right thing. And he actually didn't watch him, and he came and showed me. I said, yeah, you're right, good. You did a good job, so now you do it. And I say, don't ask me how to do that Hollandaise in a blender, because I still don't know how to do it, and I won't do it, because for me it takes, less time to do it the right way than trying to do it in the blender. The guy was doing minestrone and wasn't doing the right way, and I said, no, this is not a minestrone, it's a vegetable soup. And he said, no, it's minestrone. So I said, okay, let me go. Took my phone, Google minestrone, and say, all right, I didn't make that up, okay? Look at that. I said, and that's one of my pet peeves is people who call something what it's not, And there's a stuff, like I was saying earlier, if it's a doya, it's got cucumber in it, You should know that. I know it's a old school and nobody called, but when I go in a restaurant, there's nothing more to irritate me than to look something on a menu and then what I receive is not what's on the menu. Because why you call it that? If it's not, you should know that. And don't make up stuff because, they're called classic for a reason. So respect that, at least have a respect there. I don't care if the meal is good, the dish is good, but call it what it is, not something else. So.
Thank you, Chef.
Well, you're welcome.
You're still here? It's over. Go. Go.